Tracy.
Yo, what's good? What's good? My name is Mbaya and I go by the doctor. If you know, you know. For those of you who are first time tuning into my channel, I do in-depth reviews from a very real perspective. No sugarcoating, none of that crazy acting nonsense that you see all over the YouTubes, social media, you name it, right? Anyway, what I have for you today is the SABER 2 from STYLECRAFT. If you know, you know. The OG SABER was definitely a force to be reckoned with, but now that we have the SABER 2, it's a whole different story. For those of you who know, I do mention over and over how I use the SABER trimmer and the clipper. The OGs are what I do for self cuts at home. Obviously, I don't really use them in the shop because they're perfect for doing self cuts due to that digital brushless motor that they are equipped with. But anyway, that's enough of that. We're gonna get into the real deal of what we are here for. So as you know, the big question is, do you need the SABER 2? I'm gonna tell you why you do need it. Because as I've been saying lately, a lot of people think that I come on here and hype up the newest, hottest toy on the scene. Why? Because the hype is real. That's exactly why I come on here and I tell y'all the newest thing that I tried out is dope. You gotta get it. You gotta get your hands on it, whether you like it or not. Okay, I'm gonna be for real. Seriously, look, you don't need all the tools. You just gotta know what works for you, what is your cutting style, what kind of clientele do you see in your chair, you know, when it comes to demographic and all that good stuff. I don't say to anybody that you should stick to a particular type of people or hair texture, but you should be able to cut whatever hair texture sits in your chair, whether it's more coarse, medium, straight, fine, whatever you name it, right? If it's a black person, it's a Caucasian person, a Hispanic person, you know, Latino, Latina, whatever the case, Asian, you have to be able to service that individual as a barber. And that's my opinion, but that's facts. You do not need to be out here shortchanging yourself. So the reason why you need the SABER 2, the number one reason, it cuts for real and it's very easy to use. A lot of people tend to complain about clippers are too light or too heavy, too small, too big. Okay, look, the SABER 2 is designed for those of you who cut wild, like myself. I'm a pretty wild cutter and I'm not really a flicker, to be real with y'all, but you want to make sure that the tools you're selecting for your cutting style works for you. It's perfect when you do clipper over comb. I've tried all of that out. I've been only using it for a week and I can say so much about this thing. It's perfect when it comes to tapers, low fades, mid fades, drop fades, burst fades. It works. The thing simply does what it's needed to do. As soon as you get it out of the box, there's no adjusting, no zero gapping needed. Anyways, We're gonna talk about the presentation of this box. As usual in STYLECRAFT fashion, is definitely on point. This thing looks amazing. You are not going to be disappointed when you first see this. It looks rich, it looks exclusive, and it's going to be exactly what you want out of a clipper. As soon as you grab the clipper, you want to feel like you have something new. It's like those fresh new pair of sneakers, that fresh new video game console, you know what I'm saying, that fresh new outfit, you know, the first day of school. Like, that's what this makes you feel like. For me, as a barber, professional groomer, I definitely do back this thing 100%, because I know a lot of people will knock STYLECRAFT for always marking up their price and stuff like that, which we're going to get into in a little bit. Just, you know, bear with me. But anyway, look, listen, the specs as far as like what, you know, comes with this, what it offers, it's pretty much what you expect from STYLECRAFT, but there were a few things about it that did throw me off. But the more that I got to use it, when I really got my hands on it and started to get into many different textures, I started to see why the design is the way it is. So the big part of the whole price markup is the new motor, obviously, but the blade is what I want to get into. You have this new Echo blade on this thing, and that thing looks great. It looks amazing. I'm gonna zoom in for y'all to see this. I'm gonna come in a little closer. This is where your money is going. Besides the new motor, you have this Echo blade. The Echo blade looks similar to something that you've seen from STYLECRAFT. It does look like a vapor blade, then it looks just like a fade blade, but it's quite not the same thing. It also will remind you of what they did with the diamond blade, but it's quite not. It just is not the diamond blade. This is its own thing, and when this thing cuts on and starts to cut through that hair, it crunches something serious. But this is where your money's going, and this thing is definitely what you're paying for, in my opinion. Then you have the cutter, the 2.0 cutter. This is definitely something you've probably seen before on the Cyborg, for example. They used the 2.0 cutter on that thing. The Gamma Cyborg is definitely one of the best clippers for me, hands down. Top 5 to top 10 clippers, you know what I'm saying? Like, so is the trimmer, you know what I'm saying? Like, hands down, one of the best trimmers that I've ever used, the Cyborg. But anyway, this is what you're paying for, okay? And they make it real easy for you to clean this thing up. If you ever get a bunch of hair, you have the removable drop top, you know what I'm saying? It's magnetic, so it comes right off. I'm actually going to switch mine to gold, because this did come with a extra spare gold and a black one, which is in the box. I'll get into all that in a second. But yeah, this is definitely what you're paying for. It's that blade. Then you have, of course, the motor. It's a digital brushless motor, but they're calling this the EON, as in Eon. I am very curious to know what the story is behind that name. That is super cool. At the same time, this is very new to me. I don't know about y'all. For those of you who know about it, hey, leave that in the comment section below. Let me know what the details are, because it's impressive, I'll tell you that much. This thing's definitely not what I've ever tried before. I did try out the Vector motor, which is the Instinct motor. On that, it's powerful, obviously, we all know that, you know what I'm saying. Then the newest model that they did put out was on point as well. And then you have the SABER. I mean, what are we talking about? Like, I never grabbed the Mythic, but I do have the SABER. I love those. I do like what they did with the Apex, the ones that came in the blue and the red as well. I actually have those in here. I use them so much through the week, as in on my busy days. They cut through everything fast and efficient, and they're always quality. Now, don't get me wrong, stuff like the Rebel as well as the Boosted do an amazing job, especially when it comes to shaping up or removing a bunch of bulk, or when you're doing big chops, stuff like that. They're great for those things. But if you want to go through a busy day of just straight up cutting for real, SABER 2, trust me, just like what that Rebel does. I mean, for those of you who know, that Rebel is definitely a go-to for me. You can speed through a bunch of different haircuts. And funny story is, the Apex clippers are the same thing as the Rebel. It's just a metal, body, or a metal housing for the Apex clippers, compared to the Rebel, which has a super torque motor just like the Apex. That's exactly the same thing. You can go argue with somebody else. I mean, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the SABER and this new motor is 7,200 RPM, which is less than what the OG SABER had. So that is something that I'm still not sure about. If you know something, please leave that in the comment section. But I do know this thing is definitely still packing a lot of power for what it has to offer. But I'm going to read off of the side just a second here, just to kind of give y'all a little bit of a perspective before I get too deep. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of the times these things are going to be very fresh for me as well. I've only been using this for a week. This is not the most fair review for some of you who want to actually hear me out maybe 4 months from now, 8 months from now. This is why you need to subscribe to this channel, because I do get in depth later on. And for videos that aren't out yet, as far as follow-up reviews, you guys stay tuned for that, because I'm going to always follow up on the review for all these clippers and trimmers that I have in here. Are not just sitting around, they're being used for many different jobs, right? But anyway, we're gonna read off of the box. This thing runs 2.5 hours is the runtime. With the lithium ion battery, you have adjustable zero gap blades, which I have not zero gap. I definitely have the factory setting on mine. That is optional if you want to do that. I don't recommend it for clippers. And for those of you who know, I'm not a big fan of zero gapping, but adjusting appropriately, safely, is the way to go. I'm all for that. Then you have, of course, a modular removable drop top. Of course, this does come with the spare drop tops here, which the drop top I have on here is clear. I'm going to actually go ahead and change that right now. I will put the gold one on here. I'm going to put this away. I did clean it up earlier, so don't judge me, y'all. For those of you who are picky like me, I did clean this up earlier. I'm not holding a dirty clipper right now, so I'm going to put the gold one on there. I like how that looks. You know what I'm saying? I love gold on top of that. I'm glad they sent me a gold one, because the black would have been solid. Gold is a lot better of a look for me. And yeah, so this thing is definitely low noise and low vibration. It's very quiet. I'm gonna put this right next to the microphone and turn it on. I have the clipper lever all the way open, by the way, so that's what that sounds like. I'm gonna slowly start closing. This one doesn't have the whole RPM kick in thing. It's just cutting no matter what level you have this lever on. You see what I'm saying? It's a 5-click system, by the way. This thing's super smooth. So you know how some clippers, for example, let me see, I'll use my Rebel. When the clipper lever is open all the way and you close it, they tend to kick in, because the more you close, the more hair you cut. The more you open, the less hair you cut. So in this case right here, what I'm telling y'all is that that is not something to be concerned with. It doesn't matter what level you have your lever, it's going to absolutely cut no matter what. It's not a big deal. It's always just gonna cut. So I haven't had any issues. No matter what level I have this open on, it's going to cut. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. it's definitely on point for real. Then you have its USB-C rechargeable on the back here. I'm actually just gonna keep standing, I guess. The bottom, you know, then you got the standard. It did come with a dock that you can plug in, of course. It's back here. This thing's just pretty much very standard. It's not fancy like what they did with the Gamma stuff here. And of course, this thing's a heavy duty full metal body, of course. You have a DLC Echo Crunchy fixed blade, like I said earlier and showed y'all that. Then this is a EON 7200 RPM. Again, EON as an Eon. High torque brushless motor, of course. So that thing's powerful for it to only have 7200 RPM. Now, like I said, I think mainly the price, which is, I believe, $299 is what this is retailed at. I know a lot of y'all are probably going to argue about that being way too much, but here's the thing. I'm not trying to convert anybody. This is why you should do this or that. I'm just here to tell y'all why you need to be buying quality. I always say this over and over. It's the same thing. I'm always going to preach this. I'm just trying to look up the retail price for y'all real quick, just so we are on the same page. If you're buying tools for commercial use, you want to make sure that it's not cheap. Okay, so this is retailed at $299.95. So $200.99 or $299.95. So if you're going to be purchasing tools that are marked up high, you're always going to have an advantage. If you have any issues, it's a simple thing as calling support. Literally return it if you have to. Do what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? In some cases, you might have got the dud. You might have got the bad clipper. It's just, these things happen. But I'm here to tell y'all that $299 is high, but you're going to make that back as long as you're doing what you need to be doing. Buy them. I mean, if you're thinking of the price being super high for that one time that you have to pay $300, yeah, and that sounds crazy saying 300, right? $300. You're not going to be thinking about that when you see how fast you're going to be going through the services, how quick and how efficient this blade really is. Amazing. And I'm not sure, think about this for a second, what I'm about to say. I always say you can purchase whatever you want, and STYLECRAFT as well as Gamma make it
power off.
Sorry about that. STYLECRAFT and Gamma Plus make it very easy for you to swap or interchange the blades, or just buy them as a spare part that they usually sell, obviously, right? They sell these spare parts, these spare blades that you can purchase and put them on a different trimmer or clipper, and it works almost as close to what it is designed specifically for. Like, for example, the Echo blade is designed for the SABER 2 specifically, right? You can probably put the Echo blade on something else and it's gonna cut amazing, right? But I'm telling y'all, spending that extra money on a tool that you're going to be using every day on multiple different people is better than trying to buy something cheap only to start upgrading it to try to make it cut as good as that up priced or up high, upcharge, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just spend the money. Okay? And nowadays a lot of people are always complaining about inflation this, inflation that. Sometimes you got to get with the program with how things are shifting, and make sure you stand on business, but don't let me mislead you by saying standing on business, because I cannot stand that word nowadays. People tend to mislead people by saying these goofy things, these crazy buzzwords, these like just off the wall stuff that will have you moving as if you're arrogant. You know what I'm saying? Don't be arrogant, okay? By arrogant, I mean Stop trying to look at other people and be like them. Be you, do you. Do not try and be the next celebrity barber, whatsoever, this and that. Just make sure you're doing you. Buy something because you want it. Buy something because you did some research on that specific item. So that way it can help your situation out better so that you can make more money to pay for better tools. The more money you make, the better the tools you get. The better the tools you get, the better the clients in your chair. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a win-win. So don't go out there just buying everything, and take advice from me as far as like, if you just feel like you need to just buy the blade, buy the blade. That's what I'm saying. The big upcharge is going to be the blade, but you also have that new EON digital brushless motor. It is nothing to play with. It's nothing to pass on. But I do recommend that you do your homework before you buy these different tools, and keep in mind that all these tools that you buy are eventually going to become old because there's something else new out. But that does not mean that go ahead and buy something new just because it's new. No, stick to what works for you. Know your cutting system, understand your style, and you'll be fine. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna read more specs off of the box, and not only read more specs off of the box, the way this thing feels in hand. Okay. Ergonomically, this thing is perfect. Look at my hand and how small this thing looks. It's equivalent to what the Instinct is. Okay. So if I put this next to the boosted trimmer, look at how close in size these things are. This thing's pretty small. Okay. If I put it next to the Cyborg, okay, big difference. You know what I'm saying? Cyborg, big difference. If I put it next to the SABER precision trimmer, they're pretty much like the same size. You understand what I'm saying here? Except for this one's wider, but the length, all that, it's the same. Lightweight. I love how it feels in hand. You can't lose. When I'm talking about, you can cut with this and switch from hand to hand. Like if you're ambidextrous, you can switch from hand to hand, no problem. If you're shaping up or even tapering, for some of y'all that, you know, can handle both hands, you're good. But yeah, this is a premium DLC blade. It's definitely loud. When it cuts, you hear it. It reminds me of what the Master back in the day used to feel like. I don't know what the Master nowadays performs like. I hear good things though, but this is the one. I'm telling y'all, like, y'all need to stop sleeping on STYLECRAFT and Gamma Plus. Like, all that other stuff, you know, they've been doing it for years, right? But
let's be real, technology is definitely changing. On top of that, one thing I wanted to mention, I don't really want to compare this thing to the fast feed, but it is exactly what the fast feed used to be back in the day for me. I haven't used the fast feed. For those of you who don't know what the fast feed is, that is the Oster clipper. That thing was the go-to back in my day. I was definitely crushing it with that thing, and this is exactly what I am getting out of this. The Oster, I will combine that fast feed with my Master, which would make the craziest blend happen, but it's as if you get those same two in one. You know what I mean? Like, for those of you who are looking at the old stuff that's been out since years ago, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're wanting something that's going to compare to that, STYLECRAFT definitely did a thing. I mean, look at how fast I'm moving in real time. I'm working on this taper. This thing is removing bulk. It is cutting through anything, whether I have the lever open or closed. And I'm just going to show y'all a taper demonstration. The full duration time of how long this took me was probably like 5 minutes, if I'm not lying. And this thing was definitely chopping through everything, and I took my time just to kind of show my steps. I usually would go through this a lot faster, but when it comes to showing my steps, you know, from, you know, moving to different guards and how this thing was performing with these tight guards, are the black tight guards that did come with this packaging, and they are doing great. I mean, as they should, right? If you're not familiar with those tight guards, you need to get on this ASAP. This is pretty much what the guard system that Wall had for many years that has been pretty much improved as usual. STYLECRAFT and Gamma Plus usually always take what's been around and make it better. They always improve everything. They always improve their own tech. They always improve their own tools that have been around for some time, making them just absolutely these massive, amazing machines or tools or implements, whatever you want to call them. They do it. And I am very impressed with what they have done with the SABER 2. This Eon motor is definitely something that we all need. If you cut fast and have a lot of clients that you want to get through the day, I recommend this. The price point is definitely high, but like I mentioned, I believe the blade set that comes with this thing is what we are paying for. Then there's also, of course, that new Eon motor. The motor is definitely something that I want to learn more about because that RPM is lower than what I expected it to be, but this thing is still crunching through everything. I'm not sure if I'm talking over the ASMR, cutting that I'm doing here, but I hope you can hear it crunching. That thing is working. If there's hair, it's going to echo out loud for sure. Like, that is something that I missed so much from a lot of my tools. I believe the only tool that gets close to this crunch that I have right now is the Cyborg, and of course it's because it's quiet, then there's the crunch that happens, but it's not quite like the Echo blade. Like, I don't know what even made him come up with that name, but it's very obvious this thing does echo out loud, so it is what it is. But as you can see, I haven't even used any balding tool yet. This thing did come out of the box pretty much balanced perfectly. It is cutting close. You can zero gap this and really get the full, performance out of this thing as far as how close it can cut. But I am not a big fan of zero gapping, obviously. I have mentioned that plenty of times before in the past. I do just like to leave my clippers, especially at the factory setting that they are packaged with. And if necessary, if I see something off, of course you have to observe your blade before you cut anybody's hair. It's always great to test them out on yourself first, which I did do. The first time I did use these was on me, and they cut pretty close. I didn't necessarily have to do a lot of work. And I always mention that the SABER, the OG SABER, is my favorite, tool. And look at how close that is real fast before we even get too deep. I'm now finally about to go ahead and set in that lineup. I haven't done anything balding, yet, as far as using a closer, sharper tool that will get close. This is just what the clipper did. And I will do some detailing with this trimmer. I'm using the SABER Precision trimmer right now. For those of you who are curious what trimmer I am using, that is the SABER Precision. With the SABER Precision, or the X Pro Precision blade set is what I have equipped on this thing. This is what it is packaged with as far as the precision compared to the OG SABER trimmer. Comes with a X Pro wide blade set with the one cutter, of course. This one also has the one cutter, and as you can see, this thing's sharp. It's cutting, it's doing its thing. But with that being said, yeah, I'm gonna detail a little bit and just kind of bald out where necessary. And like I said, you don't have to necessarily zero gap your clipper. It's cutting pretty close. It's all going to vary when it comes down to whose hair texture you are working on. But this is pretty much a wrap for this taper. No exaggeration, I think a lot of people, after they try this thing out, if you know a friend that has this, somebody at the shop somewhere near, close by, or your local supplier that's probably managed to get it on them or in their hands,
like your one,
give this thing a try. Give it a shot, borrow it, whatever you got to do before this thing drops in October. Of course, it will be retailed at $299.95. Try this thing out. It is probably the best machine, the GOAT machine that all of us have been waiting for, because let's face it, a lot of these OG companies right now, in my opinion, I haven't really been trying them out, but they're just not doing it. The last few years when I was trying out a lot of their new, like products and stuff, it just was not doing it for me. And STYLECRAFT just keeps on climbing up that ladder a little bit higher, getting better and better. And so is Gamma Plus. Like, what are we talking about? I mean, anyway, listen for this thing, hear it out. You know what I'm saying? When it's cutting right now. That right there is that exquisite crunch that we are all looking for. Just beautiful. I mean, you hear that. Anyway, shop STYLECRAFT. Get yours now. Pre-order it. This thing's official.